Well, good day, good day, good day. And I'm going to say that one more time. Good day. And welcome all of you to a quick, short episode or chat with All for Success. And that's an X, which is maybe every now and then I might ask you all a question or two about some of the things going on in the public media. Oh my goodness, these past couple of weeks. Sometimes the news just comes at us so fast. I wonder, what in the world are we going to do with all this information? And you do have to protect yourself and be a little bit careful that you don't suffer from information overload. Yes, be very careful of that. Today, I might mention a couple of times things to look out for. Okay. Um, Only in my own personal experience, I can relate to you that there are things sometimes you can just try to close the curtain in your mind so that you don't have to see or experience it. And I tell you what, you have to be careful of what you're consuming in the media realm. Now, that being said, I'm going to try to pull up a couple little pics here. I don't have very many today, but I thought I would show you the ones that I do have that I think are kind of fun. Now, don't forget, folks, let's see if I got this right. Let me see if I'm going to be on the right page. I don't know. Trust me, I struggle here. Welcome to Struggle Streaming. Okay. Let's see if we're back. If I did that correctly. So, always be reminded here at All for Success that what we also like to do, although hopefully you got your coffee out and got your coffee ready, and that you're going to sit back and relax a little bit if you're at home and you have time to do that before you jump out for the morning errands. However, if not, if you're more active at this time of the morning or afternoon, depending on where you are, then I'm hoping that you get up and exercise, stretch a little bit, bend your knees here and there, twist your back from time to time so that you get a little bit of exercise in. Being parents of adult children, we're at an age, if that is your, if that's where you fit in, you're in an age where you definitely have to watch out for flexibility and endurance. So let's try to keep those things moving and keep those things coming. All right. So get your exercise in and let us know sometimes in the chat what you've been doing. I'm going to type down here real quick that I did a bicycle ride. Let me put in here, I did a bike ride this morning. And I think it was for about maybe 20 minutes. It wasn't very long. So I might go out a little bit later and ride again. It's nice because I did see a lot of my neighbors out and about strolling and walking their dogs and all kinds of things, which is also a very good thing to do in the morning. I think it's wonderful to get out and do that. I love being outside. I'm kind of old fashioned like that. So if you like being outside in the sunshine or the rain, whatever, and you just like being out early in the morning, I truly enjoy it. And I encourage everyone to do it if you get an opportunity. It's really fun. All right, all right. Now, before we get started, please hit the like button for me if you don't mind. Share and subscribe if you can. And I'm going to have to go out and do some pitches and some sales calls, see if I can get these numbers moving in an upward fashion. We need to be at the mark like some of these folks that I see on YouTube that I personally think are saying horrible things about horrible topics, but yet they have thousands and thousands of viewers. So maybe I need to come on early in the morning and say something awful about people, and then that'll get my numbers up. I might have to switch to that for a month or two. We'll see what happens. Let's hope not, though. But yeah, please like, share, and subscribe, and then we will move along to see what else we can find going on this morning. So over in Harry and Meghan land, which is the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, And this being a Sussex friendly space, meaning I'm not going to make up stories and lies and things to tell about the couple whom I do not know, whom I have not met, and create some type of horrifying, dripping story around them. So I'm not going to do that. Why? Because I'm not employed by the UK tabloid media, right? Nor am I an outpost for the UK tabloid media. And I want you to know here in the United States, we're seeing just a little bit too much of that. And I know what's going to happen before they know it. Within 3 to 5 years, they too will be extracted. Because in the United States, things like that just don't last very long because, as a rule, we don't like it, right? But anyway, let's let the UK tabloid media pay for what they pay for and do what they do. And then we will watch their horrifying downfall because I am certain it is on the way. Okay, so we're going to keep our mindset on what Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, have in the pipeline coming our way. Keep your eyes open for all things Invictus. Hey, if I can get to Canada, I will, because that would be fun to see. That's the Winter Olympics. Now, I must say, I am definitely not a fan of anything winter because that's cold. But I wouldn't mind driving through the area, looking at the beautiful views, and drinking hot chocolate in a cavern somewhere. That would be fine. So Harry and Meghan are still pushing forward, with Harry being in the forefront of all things Invictus. And so what we're going to do, of course, is support if you can, and definitely stay attuned to how that is coming out. It sounds like it's going to be exciting. Now, what has been happening is Harry was also a wonderful guest of Kevin Costner, and he was asked, I'm assuming, to present an award, which was an honor, to some of the firefighters that operate in the Santa Barbara area. And I believe the name of the station is 1805, something like that. And it's a very well-known firefighting contingent because they have members that have been in that business for a number of years. For those of you who might be unfamiliar with the West Coast, they often have and fight against big wildfires. And so they definitely have a crack team of firefighters participating in fire and rescue. Harry had the honor to bestow an award on one of the older firefighters, and he made a comment about the gentleman being 65, however, only looking 40. Now, incidentally, what is that? What is that saying? Harry and this gentleman would be looking to be about the same age because Harry just had his birthday. So, of course, these are the types of comments that Harry might make and people do get a laugh out of. And he asked this gentleman one important question, which was, after being in this business as many years as you have been, what is it that keeps you here? And the interesting thing is that the gentleman basically said he loves what he does. Now, I want each and every one of you to think about that, no matter what you do in your life or in your work, that there are people out there that absolutely love what they do. It's not easy. It really isn't easy, especially in most of our workplaces. We generally find reasons to not be there. But here's someone who has spent so many years of service and he received this achievement. Now, the beauty of this is it's an achievement, but what an honor to have Prince Harry pass that award to you. I think that is a fantastic function for Prince Harry. I mean, after all, were he in the UK and were he supporting the royal family, these are the types of things that he would be doing for the royal family, on behalf of the royal family. These are the types of entities and the types of organizations that he would draw attention upon. And many of these type of things, because of this type of attention, They collect a lot of funds from charities because they are nonprofit organizations. So it is a remarkable talent and a gift for him to be able to do these things in support of such worthy causes. And once again, the UK tabloid media could not get out of its way to keep this ability and this benefit going. Instead, the UK tabloid press spends its time trying to continue to pursue building a wedge between Prince Harry and his actual family. So I am going to spend probably a lot more time being interested in what might be the reason behind that, but they definitely continue to create in the media a conflict between Prince Harry and Meghan and the rest of the royal family. The media themselves are continuing that particular trope to make everyone constantly believe it's an us versus them battle, when the battle is actually Prince Harry versus the UK tabloid media. So I find that interesting, and I find it telling that it would appear that the royal family cannot seem to do anything about it. Not if they want to stay in the good graces of the UK tabloid media. So to me, it almost looks like a hostage situation. Now, I could be wrong, like everyone says. Maybe I'm just speculating. But there is something very sinister about what I see being played out in the media by the news personalities or the slightly less than news personalities and the newspapers, and how the royal family would seemingly have no power to to refute, and they have no power to clarify. So I just think that's interesting. And I would like to invite everyone to keep your eyes open for, pay attention to that type of feedback. So that's what Harry was doing over the past week, enjoying things. Now, he also has things coming up in New York, but we'll stand by and see how that's going to go down. It's going to be exciting, I'm sure. We'll get feedback from his presence at the UN or UN affiliated organizations. So I also wanted to note, just because of the season that we're in here in the US, which is preparing for voter season. I pulled a picture of this from the wonderful Archwell website. Now, I hope they don't charge me for this, but it was just their simple ad on one of their program pages. And it's sort of a reminder that it's national registration for voting. That is happening, that's going on in most states. And it's a reminder for people to get out and make sure that your registration has been done. Get down to your voter registration office and make sure you are on the rolls. Because in the United States, many people do not vote in their day to day local elections. Like, many people don't even go vote for city council. Many people forget who their state representatives are. That matter of fact, a lot of people where I live, they don't even know that there is a state house and a state senate. They don't even know how their state is organized. So when you're living here in the US, it is, trust me, it is really important for you to, if you don't get to do or know about anything, for you to at least go downtown to your city courthouse and see who is actually voted in to various positions in your city, especially if you live in a city. So you want to know who is the person that handles your tax money. Like when you pay your tax bill, who gets that money? Whose name is at the bottom of that check? who is that assessor. You want to know these things. If you are interested in how your roads and streets are operating or working, it's worthwhile to know who in the world is on that transportation committee. I must say, in the city I live in, I don't think anyone is actually on this committee because our streets are crazy. But that's another topic. But it's worthwhile to get to know who these people are. And so I thought it was interesting that on the Archwell page, now remember, Harry and Meghan are generally nonpartisan, right? Even though they are generally in the United States, many of the attacks on them are led by the Heritage Foundation, which is highly right wing and partisan. And so many of the entities that come from or flow from the Heritage Foundation are generally those who are on the right leaning side of the Conservative Party. Now, Harry and Meghan, who are basically pronounced to not be partisan, not particularly, I'm sure Meghan probably is, but it's not something that she would announce at this time. But they did have a lot of an interesting and intriguing note for people to register to vote. And I think that that is healthy, that everyone get up and out and definitely make sure that your paperwork is in the right office when you're for your voters registration. If I were being asked, I would say don't do anything by mail and don't fill out any form at anything like the driver's licensing bureau. Personally, I would say make a trip downtown to your voter registration office. Make sure your address is correct, make sure your name is listed there, and make sure you have the voter card that they issue with your ward and everything listed on it. It's very simple to do that. It's like going to your public library. I know a lot of people don't do it, but it is definitely worth your time. Okay? So if that's you, get out there and do that so that they don't delete your name from the rolls, because that's also happening here in the US for some unknown reason. But I'm sure you can guess. So I just thought that was interesting to point out. So we're going to continue on with what are Harry and Meghan doing? Well, whatever they want to. And they're doing it with friends that they work with continuously. And I again put this photo back up of the meeting that they had, the book club meeting they had at the new bookstore that was opening in their area, and the people who were kind enough to attend and help with that opening. You see, things like this, when Meghan and Harry are involved, these type of things anger the UK tabloid media because they are continuously trying to maintain an, an agonizing, painful picture of who Harry and Meghan are. And it's very difficult for them to do that without the help of people who will be negative for pay, right? They have to pay these people to sit online and to disparage Harry and Meghan. They have to spend time slowing down video feeds and trying to comb through audio at half speed so they can say that the beginning of a sentence doesn't match the end of a sentence, or that Harry or Meghan are looking in a certain way, or they're showing anger on their face in some sort of manner. But they have to do a lot of maneuvering to try and bring this out against Harry and Meghan. And they can see, but they will not contend because, the adversary will never contend and the adversary will never concede. So they must also feel that their efforts are being fought against. I think what many people who are out on the YouTube spaces and in other media spaces, hopefully where the Sussex friendly spaces are, they're beginning to see they are fighting a losing battle and they are becoming quite comical. And so we want to keep them that way. And just like any boxer in the boxing ring, you don't let up, right? If you have the energy to fight, you continue to fight. The only time that you rest is if you think you're allowing the other opponent to believe they are getting ahead, but you never let them up, right? Okay, but that's and that's truth. I'm serious. Okay, so let me take a short little break here, real quick, and let's see who is here in the comment section. I want to say good morning to all of you who have made it by, and I want to thank you guys and remind you again, don't forget to press the like button. I know today I'm a little bit more, I'm trying to be a tad bit subdued, a little bit more reserved. But I will get back to the nonsense. Trust me. Oh, good morning, Joyce Anderson. Thank you so much for being here. She's in her garden, everybody. Oh my gosh. Miss Anderson, Joyce Anderson. Okay, look, I've pulled up almost everything in my garden. I appreciate that you are still on top of yours. I do plan to put turnip greens down maybe during the winter. I don't know if that's going to work, but I'm going to try to go for it. But I'm going to use you and your gardening as encouragement. Thank you, Joyce Anderson, so much for being here. She says she loves the winter. Okay, well, then we'll see you in Canada. We will see you in Canada. And thank you so much for being here. She likes the winter. I don't know if it's cold. I can be bundled up. I can bundle up and try to stay warm, but that's all about the best I can do. Thank you so much. So, for the rest of you guys, I want to tell you, we will try to stay warm throughout the winter. Even if we do get a chance to head that way, it would be fun. So, I'm going to see what else we have here on the next batch here. I always wanted to go over. Now, I know I said I wasn't going to be here too long, but I did want to point out just a couple of things for us to pay attention to today. Okay, so this week, this is kind of unrelated, sort of, but Oprah did a video call with numerous people, and then they had an open forum, sort of like a sit down town hall slash interview presentation. And she did that with the presidential hopeful, Kamala Harris. Now, they spent, I think, about an hour. I came in and out of the lectures, and they talked about all sorts of things, her plan for the future, her values, and so forth, all the things that you do to introduce a presidential hopeful. And so that's Oprah on the stage doing what it is that she does, being Oprah. And then, of course, all of these different people called in to offer their support, and it was really lovely. A lot of celebrities made calls in, but here's the topic that was featured, and I thought it was interesting. And I'm only going to touch on this in a very small way. They featured several families whose children had been victims during school shootings. And they talked to some of the young people that had experienced being in the school when some of these things happened and how they may have survived it. And they even featured a young lady who actually had been shot during one of these incidents, and her mother and father were there. And I got to tell you, their story was quite harrowing. And I mean, for any of us who have young students or young kids or grandchildren in school, it's very different from when we went to school. Our schools were fairly open. Kids, we were all just in there doing our work, and then, the end of the day, that's all we looked forward to. But it was kind of intriguing that some of the people that were there were those who had been involved in that type of an environment. And what was also interesting about it is they gave a number here in the US of children who have been affected, the number of students in a school perhaps that had been affected by a school shooting. And that number was somewhere around 300,000 or more. I mean, I couldn't believe that. That's like more than a quarter of a million. And, it had been my thought process almost that an incident which was big when I was a little bit younger, it was Columbine. I just kind of thought that these type of things would be so rare. Like that incident would have happened and you wouldn't have heard about anything like that for about 20 years. But they were pointing out that in the US, this is becoming almost common, you know. And I gotta say, it's extremely frightening, and I do hope I don't know what could be done about it, but I do hope that there is some type of mentality change that will put a stop to it. Because we can't figure out why these young generally, here's the feature. Generally, it's a young man who might be somewhat of a loner in the classroom environment or school setting, who generally might be considered outside of the popular slash in crowd, and they for some reason feel the need to go back into the school and commit these deadly crimes. So I do hope that they are able to wrap their hands around that. And it was interesting because that was one of the many topics here on this stage, right? But setting that aside, the reason that I brought up this particular event with Oprah and our future presidential candidate is that I am certain that also, this is also something that is feeding into the what do they call it, increase or the spiking in online fighting against Harry and Meghan. What is spiking it is because of the proximity that Prince Harry and Meghan may now have to the future leadership here in the United States. I mean, for the proximity, they are simply one person apart, right? By this, Meghan knows Oprah, and Oprah knows Kamala, or the presidential hopeful. And so these type of influences and these type of familiarities must send the UK media public, the media machine, it must indeed send them into a fit, because this has got to be terrifying. That no matter what they are doing to try and push Harry and Meghan down and out of sight, it is simply their interaction with and their proximity to those who they are in and around, that they're simply elevated to a level that is unequaled. It's unparalleled by any other royal member of the family, right? And I think it drives the UK tabloid press insane. So I just wanted to point that out and let you all know I'm keeping an eye on that. Now, what I'm not saying is that these folks are friends, because I do understand that in the United States, people are in and around each other totally for what's in it for them often. And the word friendship is not one that should be applied. It might be more opportunity. But I just want to keep that in mind, that these people are very interrelated. And I think it's wonderful. And I do believe that this, again, is something that the UK tabloid press is going to lose their mind over. Well, all right, folks, thank you so much. Look, look, look. I know I said I was going to cut it a little bit short. I'm going to give you an applause for hanging out here with me. I do appreciate it. Oh, wow, that's kind of neat. As always, I do like to always point out a couple of things in my chat that I link back perhaps to a Bible verse or two. And again, I don't want to turn anybody off because you think, oh, I'm trying to, be in the ministry here on my chat. It's not exactly that, but I sometimes like to let you know where my mind sometimes pulls thoughts and ideas from and things that I piece together. Okay. And I'm going to preface this. I am listening and I'm going to make a chart of this for a future chat online. I'm going to make a chart of several key phrases and key words that have been placed in the public, um, what I call the public speaking realm. And in the United States, we have words like, or not rather words, but terms. We have terms like DEI. And DEI is supposed to equal all things negative in employment. And what it's supposed to hint at when I say that is that you're supposed to automatically conjure up in your mind that the people I'm talking about are incompetent or unqualified. When I slap the DEI term or label upon something, you're supposed to think negatively. Okay. And what that stands for, by the way, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, those three words alone, there's nothing negative about those three words, but we have made that term negative. Right. Now that word is supposed to be, those three words are now supposed to equal incompetent, unqualified. All right. The next group of words, which I think are interesting, that has entered our, what I call, you'll hear it commonly said by various people. And I always notice when I hear something either in the media space or in the, I say news spaces. So the next phrase is word salad. Okay. Word salad. We're going to put these on the chart. We're going to talk about these a little bit later because I need you to notice these terms. Now, this term is supposed to apply to the fact that whomever the speaker is or whoever I'm referring to, that no one can understand what they're saying, that it's not clear. In other words, that no matter how talented of a speaker or no matter how clear their no matter how clear what they're saying is, you're supposed to believe that if I apply the term word salad to it, that they're not making any sense. Okay. So I want you to notice where you hear that, who you hear say it, and how often. Right. And then I'm going to come back to you and we're going to go over some of these terms. And we're going to see if you're hearing them as often as I do and how they're applied. So keep your eyes open and we look forward to that in the coming chats. So I'm about to wrap up here and I just want to throw out a couple of Bible verses. Like I said, you're not being recruited into any type of cult, but I thought it would be interesting to talk about this. Today's topic is shame. Now, you might say, why is that? Well, we had a speaker make a comment about another person saying that this person, the presidential candidate, doesn't know how to be humble, right? Like they don't know how to show humility. And sometimes that's a matter of fact, we want to put that word on the list as well. Humble. Be humble. Let's also put that down. Because often people are told to be humble, and you're wondering, why is anyone asking someone to be humble? Like, you don't hear people asking, for example, the founder of Microsoft to be humble, right? Have you ever heard anyone say to, I don't know, the founder of, let's say, SpaceX to be humble? Right. Has anyone ever said, "Oh, the General Motors chief executive officer, he should be humble"? But I want you to again pay attention to something like that term. That term or the request to be humble is applied to certain people. And in this case, it was applied to our presidential hopeful, Kamala Harris, not to President hopeful Trump. So it's just interesting who is asked to be humble and who is not. So, with that being said, being humble generally requires that you have a concept of shame, right? In order for an individual to say, show humility, generally it's because they have an understanding of or a concept of what would cause shame on the other end. So let's go to Genesis and let's see where this showed up maybe earliest. It's that he said, which is referring to actually Adam, he said he heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself. Now, I'm sure many of you are many of you are probably well versed in the story of Adam and Eve, what was going on, what happened between these two, what they were doing, and then they were trying to hide out in the garden, and they decided to cover themselves up with leaves and get dressed. And when they were approached, they basically were trying not to be seen. And so this is Adam expressing that he was ashamed, so he hid himself, right? So he had to have a concept of shame. Now, also, I love one of my favorite books is in the Bible is Proverbs, because Proverbs is like common sense talk. It's almost like someone just giving you common sense advice, and then you can do with it what you want. And so in Proverbs, they refer to concepts that the rod and reproof. And then what they're talking about is spanking kids and giving children correction, the rod and reproof. That that they give wisdom. But a child who gets his own way, that means who's always indulged, no matter what they do, right or wrong, nothing is said. That shame to his mother is what will be the result. Shame to his parents. And that is what Proverbs is teaching. Then what are they saying? Are they saying go around and just beat kids for no reason? No, they're talking about giving wisdom, right? Because some children just can't draw lines. They can't put things together because they're too young. And so sometimes you have to reproof them to offer wisdom. You have to provide correction. Otherwise, what will that do? It will probably bring shame to the parent. If you raise children that are so completely out of control and embarrassing, as a parent, you will be embarrassed, right? And that is without a doubt. And no one wants that. So I'm hoping, that we can kind of go through that. Now, Proverbs 11 also has another concept that when pride takes over or when pride comes, right? That what happens if it's too great, that the fall that will occur later is what will humble you in wisdom. So keep those type of thoughts. And if you have time and you're interested, go back and read those type of verses for yourself, because my consideration was to ask a person to be humble or to say that a person is not being humble is to imply that they have no sense of shame. However, on the flip side, if you see an individual or if you are observing an individual who appears to show absolutely no shame, but yet they are not asked to be humble, it is quite telling how your mind works and what you value, right? So, with that being said, folks, let's take those lessons and go wherever you can. If you want to call it a lesson or a thought process or a verse, just get a chance, read through them, and see if it makes any sense to you. I hope it does. And I thank you guys for being here once again. Yes, indeed. Once again, we're going to wrap everything up. Thank you all for being here, and I appreciate all your comments and your likes. I really do. And you guys, if I get my act together, I hope you can be here the next time I have my chat in line. And hopefully, I'll say something thoughtful and entertaining. And we're going to see how things play out in the next week or so. All right, one more time, give yourselves a round of applause. And thanks for being here.